the thing that scares me the most is just like the recklessness and the lawlessness of the people that are supposed to be upholding the law. And I think that's where we are. And we keep going faster and faster and faster with all these just wild things that keep happening. And there doesn't seem to be any consequences or, repercussions. And it's scary.
From the data I've seen, even people that approve of the general direction of things are saying, hold up, this cannot be the Wild West. Let's get the violent criminals off the streets that have gotten in this country illegally. I don't think anybody would disagree, right? We don't want people that are here breaking laws and doing horrible things. But when I say that, I think of like murderers, rapists, like violent crime, not my grandpa overstayed his visa.
Welcome to Drinks with the Girls. Conversations for women over 40 around connection, change, and the power of female friendship. Living well with stories to tell. I'm Karen, and this is Lisa.
We are moms and solopreneurs stepping into our own, diving into real conversations about things that matter to women in midlife.
We're here to spill the tea on everything that affects women in their 40s and beyond. Topics like loss and grief, changing relationships, launching kids, menopause, and reinventing ourselves in midlife. We are here to tackle it all.
Connect with us through a blend of our lived experiences, our friendship, the memory of our moms, plus a collection of real stories, honest conversations, and engaging interviews that will make women over 40 feel seen and remind them that they're not alone on this journey called life. Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of Drinks with the Girls. Today, we are going to talk about something that has been bubbling up on the back burner for a while, and we can no longer ignore it because it feels impossible to ignore, frankly, based on what's happening in the United States right now. The division, the fear, the anger, the emotional fatigue. But before we go any further, we just want right out of the gates, just want to say this is not a debate. This is not a political podcast. As we've said before, there are so many great political podcasts out there that if you need that kind of information, you can find it. This is just a conversation amongst besties, talking about things that really matter. Women in midlife, and what's going on in the United States certainly falls in that category. But before we get going, I'm drinking Culture Pop soda. Ooh. Fizzy and gutsy, because I'm all about the labels. I'm all about the marketing.
Okay.
So it's fizzy and gutsy.
Slide that over so I can see it. Oh, cool. Pretty.
And it is ginger, lemon, and turmeric, which I thought, I don't know how that's going to be.
Delightful.
It is actually great. Yes. So 9 out of 10. What are you drinking?
Mine is kind of basic bitch, but I have a funny story, so I figured it balanced it out. It's just a road trip millennial cigarette, doing the Diet Coke because I'm in a hotel room today. But I'm going to use part of my time here to talk about something other than a drink before we get into the heavy meatiness of this episode. And I just want you all to know, public service message, that Drinks with the Girls can help you survive even the most humiliating of incidences. I was getting in my car to go on this trip and I was kissing my husband goodbye. He goes, wait, don't move. And I was like, what? He goes, you have a chin hair. I'm like, shut up. So he proceeded to, in the light, in the car, yank it out of my chin. So yes, it is true love. And see, we were telling you, you heard it here first. Car light is the best for chin hair. So he saved me from a rather embarrassing moment. So there you go. That's my Drinks with the Girls.
Yay, Martin. We love our men that have our backs when it comes to those rogue chin hairs.
Our chins to yeah. So I figured, given what we're going to talk about today, it'd be nice to start with something light, because I don't know that the rest of this episode is going to be light. And it's, I'm glad Karen said what she said, and we've tried to be pretty purposeful about staying out of this arena. And so we really, when we thought about doing this episode, we both were like, we can't really ignore it at this point. It's just so freaking pervasive. But I think that the angle that we really want to come to this through today is really about kind of helping you guys hold all this and stay present and figure out a way through. So you're not going to hear us come down on a political side or two. We're going to talk about some polls and just kind of what the mood of the women in midlife in our country are right now. In other countries, you can go ahead and listen because I'm sure you guys are watching the circus on TV. But we're really trying to keep it around like supporting y'all during this. So hopefully we'll succeed in that.
Well, I think, yeah, just to give you a different perspective on how you can help yourself, like Lisa said, kind of through while staying present and taking care of your nervous system, because it is a fucking lot. And we weren't even going to do an episode that wasn't
Yep.
solely about this. We dabble in it, in the episodes as it comes up, but Lisa and I were just texting over the weekend, just commiserating with each other about the state of our country right now, and feeling, lots of feelings, feeling all the feelings. And so we just kind of decided, you know what, we need to talk about this. So in typical Drinks with the Girls fashion, pull up a seat, let's have a chit chat, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. So I think the kind of what the game changer has been is, and this has been building for a long time, but it truly feels unstable to be a citizen of the US and frankly a global citizen at this point. Like I've been in countries that are destabilized. Like I lived in Zimbabwe, I lived in Iran. Like I know what it's like when you're in a situation where the government is unstable. But when the whole world has lost its mind and things are just tenuous, there's a lot of wars going on, there's a lot of crazy, crazy shit happening all over the world, really. It does feel like a bit like standing on quicksand, no matter what side of the issue you come down on. And I think that's kind of what tipped us over, just in terms of, all right, I know that we don't have all the answers, certainly, but we need to talk about this. I don't know. What do you think about that, Karen?
Yeah. I just want to say, though, I feel like if you're on one side, I feel like one side might be having more feelings than the other.
That's fair.
Not better, worse, but maybe different feelings. But I think that to see the way that human beings are being handled in this country is frightening. I think somebody else who's maybe on the other side of the aisle might say, I like what's happening with, it's okay. It should be happening. And so, and that's where it gets difficult because, people have emotions that go along with their opinions and their beliefs and their feelings. And I think just the ability to just talk about things, and not diving into all the things, right, specifically, but just being able to talk about the emotions and how we are feeling and what we're thinking and what we're doing and how to do things that can preserve our mental health, our emotional health, and maybe our relationships. I don't know.
Yep. So it's interesting that you say that because I did a little bit of research. Our Drinks with the Girls research staff helped me a little bit with this. And I
Our
wanted
staff is
to
really
actually,
underpaid.
I
Don't you think our
know,
research staff
God.
is really underpaid? Okay,
Yeah, I know, but
sorry.
they look hot, so we're fine. Because I really wanted to find out, like, are my particular feelings or Karen's feelings like in the minority? Like, what's going on? And to be honest, I was shocked. I mean, and I'm going to throw some stats out here because I think it's important just for everybody to know kind of like where our demographic stands. And I'm talking about women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. So there was a New York Times Siena poll very recently, January 12th through 17th, and it said, do you think the tactics used by immigration and customs enforcement have gone too far, have not gone far enough, or have been about right? All respondents, this is everybody's, not broken down by party or anything, 61% said way too far. If you break it out with Democrats, Republicans, and independents, the majority is still quite large. So 94% of Democrats, which I wouldn't be surprised about, and 71% of independents. Republicans, 20%. But if you add that to like about right, like somewhere in the middle, it's a good 60%. So I was actually kind of surprised about that. Then CNN did a poll that was about, the question was, let's see, Here are a few things President Trump pledged to do during his inaugural address last year. For each one, please say whether you think he has made progress, made things worse, or not had much effect on it. For the made worse, I'm just going to spoil alert and say the made worse part of this graph is quite large compared to the other two. Again, I was blown away. Restoring safety to the United States, 39% says this administration has made it worse. Bringing law and order back to our cities, 42% said this administration has made it worse. Bringing back free speech to America, 41%. Keeping our children safe, healthy, and disease-free, 40%. Being a peacemaker and a unifier, 47%. Stopping the weaponization of the Justice Department, 41%. So, I mean, I can spill these stats all day long, but I think that what I'm taking away from this is the majority of people in the US are not happy with what's going on right now. And I, for one, am here for that because I think it's pretty shocking that when a 5-year-old can be photographed with an ICE agent with his face against a truck while they take his dad away, that there's got to be some kind of manic crazy that's going on because I don't know what world that's okay in.
Yes. And, not to go down and get, what do they say, get in the weeds of all of the ins and the outs of everything. But the thing that scares me the most is just like the recklessness and the lawlessness of the people that are supposed to be upholding the law. And I think this administration is very good at not taking accountability. And I think that's where we are. I just think we're on this slope, this downhill slope, and we keep going faster and faster and faster with all these just wild things that keep happening. And there doesn't seem to be any consequences or, repercussions. And it's scary.
Well, and again, I'm gonna try to be the facts person on this as easy, as hard as that is, but I'm gonna try to keep that our center so we can talk about that. And even from the data I've seen, even people that are, shall we say, more favorable about the immigration policies are saying that ICE is very undertrained. They are going too far, that there's no checks and balances, there's no background checks. So even people that approve of the general direction of things are saying, hold up, like this cannot be the Wild West. And things like, it seems like we are rounding up anybody, and the financial incentives that have been given to the ICE agents are really, not surprisingly, what is motivating them, rather than let's get the violent criminals off the streets that have gotten in this country illegally. Which I think, just hearing that statement, I don't think anybody would disagree, right? We don't want people that are here breaking laws and doing horrible things, right? But when I say that, I think of like murderers, rapists, like violent crime, not my grandpa overstayed his visa.
My name is Karen Shatafian, and I am a shameless coffee addict and empowerment coach for women, and my love language is authenticity. My mission is helping women unapologetically design a life they're in love with. Because what the hell are we waiting for? My website, KarenShatafian.com, has all my coaching packages and free offers like my Midlife Reclamation Guide. In it, you'll find tools to help you decide how to create the most inspired and empowered version of yourself and your life. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram talking about ways women can show up for themselves after decades of showing up for everyone else. Join me as we throw off the shackles and live our best freaking lives. See the show notes for all the details. Cheers. We're not going to talk about all the reasons why that is and what's behind everything and why it's happening. But I think for me, the importance of this episode is because I know when I see these things, and, I admit doom scrolling is one of those things I vowed in 2026 I was going to get a handle on, because I think social media it's like a runaway train. And it's refreshing to see things of, people talking about going more analog and kind of getting back to how things used to be. But for me, the importance of this episode is to empower women and to empower our listeners and to empower me. I need empowerment. I need to know that there are things I can do or not do that can help me make sense of it all. Because, what do we do as women? We hold all the things, especially all the emotions. And so, and if we have kids, like I don't have young kids at home. So I talk to my kids about this as an adult would, but if you have younger kids, you have to hold that as well.
Yep. Well, what's interesting, and again, I found some good facts and things to cite on this. So we talked about this. I can't remember which episode. I don't know. Karen and I are trading brains on this one because she's starting to remember the episodes better than I am. But I think it was an episode we did on pop culture and women in midlife and pop culture and how they were like the cool kids again. And we were talking about this idea that like women, for example, in their 50s, like we have the buying power. Like the economy is behind us and we make the buying decisions. And so, that and certain other things were influencing the fact that we are now a lot more front and center. So here's the other thing. The article I was reading was about a poll that was called She's the Difference, Determined to Stay Optimistic Through Tough Times. They were focus groups done by AARP. That did these focus groups, right? And it was done in October. And what I found fascinating is they were saying that women 50 plus are capable of making a sea change in politics. Like wherever they kind of go, that can shift voting blocks. And I thought that was really interesting because I hadn't heard that stat before. But the issues that are the most important to us are inflation in the economy, abortion and reproductive rights, healthcare costs, and threats to democracy. It said after inflation, this is consistently ranked as a top 3 issue by women voters. And they said across party lines, so it doesn't matter which party you're affiliated with, most women 50 plus don't think policymakers understand their challenges and have deep concerns around rising costs and financial security in retirement.
Well, and I think also as our rights have been rolled back, as women's rights have been rolled back, I feel like that's a concern too. Like, I don't think that the administration is in touch with the needs of women.
I would agree with that. And I think what these polls are showing is that this isn't just a small block of like fringe women sitting there, with gray hair and knitting needles, like railing against the machine. Like, that ain't this. This is a powerful voting bloc. This is a majority of people, never mind women, that are feeling this way. And it's really, I think, going to come down to, okay, are people going to sit around and complain about it, or is there going to be some action taken? And what action do we have? Former presidents have spoken out and saying, if people don't like it, they need to figure out a way to demand change and demand change now. So, and I've also heard a lot of people say, oh, the midterms. But I've heard a growing number of people say that something massive is going to go down even before the midterms. Like, we don't have a year to straighten this shit out. Like, things are happening now and we got to figure it out. So I personally don't know the answer, and I don't think Karen does either, but I think it's really about how you're holding this, right? Like, Karen, how do you deal with this in terms of like what you're willing to take in from the news and just living your life? Like, what's the attitude you've adopted to kind of function?
I find myself in a very interesting position being an online creator and a person who has an online business, because there are, there are 2 ways to think about it. It's either, as an online business person, I need to let my people know where I stand. And then there's another faction who are, I'm an online business owner, maybe I sell widgets and my beliefs don't have anything to do with me selling widgets. So I've been trying to decide where I want to land with that, because it's important to me that I'm in integrity. And, I want my people to know where I stand. I want people who are considering hiring me to know where I stand. Just like when I give my money to a business, I want to know. And, maybe that's not important to everybody, but it is important to me. But I think about that. But I've really tried for myself I've tried to just really set hard and fast boundaries. And like I said, I've been trying with social media because I'm an Instagram girly. I could scroll and scroll. I've made it one of my goals this year is to just get my phone out of my hand more. Just get it out. And so I have to catch myself not scrolling with all of the political posts these days. Like I can find myself going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. And I can feel it in my body that it does not feel good. It feels awful. And so I have to limit that for sure. And then what I do is back when this latest administration came into office, I had to really decide where am I going to get, what are my news sources that I'm going to get my information from? And I've been guilty of this too. It's like you see something online, maybe a meme or something, and you jump on the bandwagon and you're like, yeah. And then you find out, oh, that's not true. Right. So it's like, I felt like it was so important to really know what is the truth because everything gets spun and everything gets just twisted around to make it look the way that people who are presenting it want it to look. So I have a few sources that I rely on. So that helps me too, because then I know, okay. And they're, by the way, some of them are, what's it called? Bipartisan, nonpartisan. They're objective. It's not one side or the other. Listeners, if you're out there and you're the same, you can't figure out who do I listen to? Where do I get my information? Where do I get the facts? Heather Cox Richardson is a fabulous way. She's a history professor. She has 5 million subscribers on Substack, and she does a daily newsletter where she breaks down today's news stories coming from the historical perspective. It's called Letters from an American. Yes, Letters from an American. I also go to Snopes, which is kind of an old school fact checking site, but that's helped me in, when I want to know, did this person really say this or did they really do this? And then I get a newsletter from Tangle, and it's nonpartisan, neutral. They just give you the facts on, what are the stories of the day, like the headlines. But what about you? How do you kind of wrap your brain around all of it? How do you stay sane? How do you protect your mental health?
So, I've definitely changed the way I get my information. I used to, especially when I was traveling, I would have MSNBC on a lot in the background, just kind of for company while I was doing things. Don't do that anymore. No CNN, no MSNBC. I used to be quite a heavy consumer of NPR because I drive a lot, and I'm still supporting them financially because I know that our public institutions, public radio, public arts are just in the toilet. So I believe in supporting them financially, but I don't listen. I found that it was just too much for me to take in roundabout the election. And it's kind of like you said, like I just felt it in my body, and it was like I wanted to crawl out of my skin. Like I just could not, I felt like I was drinking from a fire hose and not in a good way. Like I was being waterboarded by information. So I made a decision that I was not going to consume that way. And just because it felt so icky to me. I may go back to it at some point, but right now it is just not in a form that I can digest. So I get some digests on my phone through Google. It's definitely hit or miss, but I feel like I can scroll through stuff and kind of look at it with one eye open in case it's a lot. Again, like I fully embrace, totally.
It's that little emoji where you're peeking behind your hand.
100%. I'm always like, and my husband is Mr. like doom scroller, and he'll do that with like TikTok or YouTube, and he'll hear this stuff. And I'm like, we get into fights about it because I'm like, I cannot handle this. I cannot listen to this. What? You need to know what's going on. You can't just stick your head in the sand. And I'm like, there's a difference between sticking your head in the sand and filtering out in ways that you can digest. And I will not apologize for being kind to myself in terms of how I get the information. I consider myself to be well informed. I can't like debate the top politician, but I think I know what I'm talking about. And frankly, I feel like I take in enough information that I can make some reasonable decisions for my family and me. And other than that, I really just made that decision because it was affecting my mental health. Like I'll be pretty
Yeah,
honest about it. So that's how I do it.
absolutely. Yeah. I think it's interesting. I want to talk about keeping silent during this whole
Hmm.
thing as a coping mechanism, because I think a lot of people choose just to be silent, first of all, so they can just cope, so they can deal with
Yep.
day-to-day life, picking up the kids and making dinner and going to the doctor and all that. I follow Therapy Jeff on Instagram. Highly recommend. But he actually had a reel, I think it was today or yesterday, and he really broke it down that our bodies are not built for this. Like our bodies are not built for this level of constant and continual input of
Yeah.
all of these way crazy things that we're seeing. And
It's like
we
being
get
in a war
flooded.
zone.
Yes. Yeah. And we're flooded, right, with all these
Hmm.
emotions and they don't have anywhere to go. So when we're silent, they stay in our body and it just that cortisol, that
Hmm.
stress stays in our body. And so he's saying that the silence amplifies the cortisol, amplifies the stress, which totally makes sense. That's why, your therapist will tell you can't bottle up your feelings, you got to let them out.
Yep.
So he says that when you name it, you can just get it out of your body. Just talk about it with somebody that you trust, right? Not in like a toxic positivity way, but just in a this is what I'm noticing, this is what I'm feeling, this
Yep.
is what I want to do. So I thought that was interesting that staying silent, we might think it's helping, because we're not talking about it, we're
Yeah.
not bringing it up, we're not making waves, but actually it has the opposite effect.
Yeah. Well, and I think that also the bigger picture is staying silent or not staying silent in terms of being active and open about agreeing or disagreeing with what's going on. And I want to know what you think about this. I will tell you that I've had to make some hard decisions about that for a couple of reasons. Because shocker, I'm not one to keep my mouth shut. I know everybody's so surprised when they hear that. But the very real fact of the matter is, I work in the ed tech sector, so essentially it's a private company, but working with public institutions in education, which, as everybody knows, there's been a crud ton of stuff happening there. So I have to be pretty careful about my public and online persona, to not even remain neutral, just like not even go there. But at the same time, I have districts calling me and asking me, like, what's the story with this? Like, I have my membership, I have parents and people like, well, what should we do about that? So it's been a very fine tightrope for me to walk. And the way I've settled on it is, I will talk to people one on one. Honestly, if they ask, I don't volunteer my opinion unless they ask. Um, I do not post political things on my social media, although I'm calling myself a liar right now because I've been so upset. There's a couple things that I've posted recently. I think they're pretty benign, but one was on LinkedIn and one was on Facebook. I was not coming out and being like, hey, I'm this, I'm that, but it was more expressing my sadness about what's happening in Minneapolis. And the other was expressing my joy about the fact that my hometown school district had been instrumental in getting, without getting into the weeds, some issues with education funding, um, not fixed, but pushed back on. So I don't want to get into all that. The other thing is that, my husband, as many of you guys know, was up until about, I don't know, a couple months ago, not a citizen of the US. He's here legally. He's always been here legally, but we were in the process of getting his citizenship. And I'll give you an example. So when there were the No Kings protests around the country, my daughter, who also, like me, does not keep her mouth shut, uh, wanted to go to the one up in Portland, which was the closest one to us. And at first I was like, yeah, I'll go with you. And then I was like, you know what? I don't think we can go. And she naturally wanted to hear me explain why. And I was like, okay, this is one of, those parenting times where you're like, I cannot bullshit my way through this. Like I have to like give her the truth. And I said, I will be honest with you. I want to support your right to protest whatever, and I'm there for you, and I will protect your right to do that. But in the state that we are living in right now, if we take place in that protest and your father's picture is captured on that with an open application for citizenship, I'm not sure what that will mean in terms of whether or not he gets his citizenship. And I feel ridiculous for even saying that out loud, but that was a legitimate concern. And I still, to this day, think it's a legitimate concern. And so therefore I said, I'm sorry, but I'm not comfortable doing that. And she understood.
Hey there, I'm Lisa Corricello-McDowell, your midlife Pacific Northwest princess, here to guide you in the art of next leveling your life. I'm passionate about women's health and wellness in midlife, especially for moms parenting kids with unique needs like I do. I truly believe we can learn, grow, advocate, and care for the planet while taking care of ourselves and our families. And I'd love to help you do the same. And I'm beyond excited to tell you about my membership for maxed out mamas just like me, the Empowered Parent Collective. It's a space for parents to confidently advocate for their kids, build inclusive communities, educate themselves, and find balance and support along the way. To find out more about the Empowered Parent Collective, my classes, wellness offerings, parenting tips, advocacy resources, and exclusive Drinks with the Girls goodies, head to nextlevellifewithlisa.com. Let's survive and thrive in the messy middle together.
I say all this by way of I have had to make some very serious choices in terms of how I show up and my own personal values because of the way things are in this country right now. How about you, Karen?
This goes back to what I was talking about a little bit ago in trying to make the decision on where do I fall and how much do I want to say. And literally part of my job is helping women use their voice and helping women speak up, maybe speak the things that they haven't been able to speak or speak their truth finally, right? And so it feels disingenuous to not speak my truth or not put my values out there if this is what I'm telling women is so important, right? To use our voice. So yeah, it's so layered. It's such a layered dilemma, I guess. But I've been trying to come up with a, just like a post I want to pin to my social media is just saying, this is who I am. This is what I believe. And this is kind of where I land. And if you vibe, great. And if you don't, that's okay too. And somebody asked me, they're like, well, aren't you going to lose, clients that way? Aren't you going to, aren't you leaving money on the table? And I said, you know what, honestly, it's fine. It's okay. If somebody doesn't want to hire me because of my values, those aren't my people. Mm-hmm. So I'm totally fine with it. And I think, I want to just point out too, I think we need to talk about the fact that privilege, you and I both have privilege from being white. Mm-hmm. People with black or brown skin don't have the luxury of deciding, oh, do I want to talk about this? Do I want to let people, because their communities are literally being affected every day. It's uncomfortable. Some people don't recognize, what the privilege is. And it's not saying that what you've been through in your life doesn't matter, that it wasn't hard, that maybe, you've struggled emotionally or financially or relationally or economically, whatever. It's not denying that because we've all struggled. It just means that the system didn't make your life harder because of the color of your skin.
Yeah. I swear to God, we have the same brain. Sometimes I was thinking exactly that. So I'm glad you brought it up. But I would also add to that socioeconomic status, because if you chose to do that, right? Let's just say, for example, you decided to put that post up and you did lose business because of that, right? You have the choice of doing it. If I am making minimum wage, working at Home Depot or whatever, I don't have the privilege of saying, I don't like the way you're dressed and what you're saying, like the statement you're making with this, it's making me really uncomfortable, so I'm not going to serve you. I'd be out of my ass. So I think that the concept of privilege is absolutely germane to what we're talking about here, because let's be real, if you have privilege, you have choices. That's what that means, is you have choices. Yes. And some people do not have those choices. So I think it's very good that we're being upfront and really naming that, because you just can't get away with it. And I was even thinking today about, the protests in Minneapolis and all these things. And the fact that things have ratcheted up over the fact that the latest two people have been killed. And I couldn't help but think to myself, I wonder what would have happened if both these people had been people of color. Would
Well,
we
there was
be
a young man who
this
was a black
outraged?
man
But
who was killed
that's exactly what I'm
first.
saying, right?
Yeah.
So
And you don't
there
see
was
his name
him.
in the news. You don't see his name.
Exactly. And then we
Hmm.
had two white people that were killed, and all of a sudden everybody was like,
Yeah.
oh, this has gone way too far. And I have a problem with that, right? I mean, we talked about this on the
Oh,
episode
hell
with Brie
yeah.
Martin. When we were talking about all this, it's like, okay, so everybody finally gets their dander up when white people are getting killed, but when another unarmed black man gets killed, I mean, you cannot look at this and not see that. So, like, are we only gonna
Right.
get serious
And
about this when white people get killed?
yeah, and I mean, we are so annoying to black women and to black people because they have literally been screaming about this. I mean,
Yep,
2020, why do you think Black Lives Matter even became such a
yep,
huge thing? Because they're literally screaming from the rooftops, and until it affects your community, you have the privilege
yep.
of, oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
until it shows up at your front door. That's a
Mm-hmm.
privilege we have of, do I want to look or not? Whereas people of
Yeah,
color don't have a choice.
yeah. And I think that's the difference between the "Well, all lives matter" comment, right? It's one of my friends talked about. Well, we all live in the cul-de-sac. Does that mean that if your neighbor's house is on fire, that you're not going to put it out because it's just a house on the cul-de-sac, right? We talked a lot about that with Brie. She was very clear about this idea of allyship and what that means and being a human and what it isn't, right? And one thing she was very clear about it isn't me having to be responsible for educating everybody out there about racism and what that is. I am here to talk about it with you, my friends, and people that really want to know. If you ask me, I will talk to you about it. But don't mistake that for me feeling responsible for educating people. And I think that was a really important point.
And everybody has a different level of what they're willing to talk about or to say or to put out there. Like you said, you have constraints because of your job. Like, we don't need you getting fired.
No, thank you.
But I
Not
just
here for
think
that.
it's important that we recognize, and like you said at the top of the episode, like, what power we have. We have a lot of power as midlife women, not only with our money, our pocketbooks, but also if we are a white woman, we have a lot of power in we can use our privilege to talk about things that maybe only other white people are going to hear from you
Mm-hmm.
because you're a white person, right? Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
That sounds terrible.
No,
That
I
sounds really
understand what
bad.
you're saying. And I think it's about this continuum of using your privilege to speak out and speak up for those that don't have it, right? But it's also that continuum of what does speaking up look like? Like, we're certainly not telling everybody to go out and set themselves on fire, literally, and protest, right? That's not what this is about, okay? Like, I've had to make choices about that. I've been in conversations with people that, I mean, I can think of one in particular as a business conversation, and the person was being just openly racist, and it was really upsetting to me. And I was fighting with myself the whole time as to whether or not I should take this person down a peg. And in the end, I decided, you know what, this is just not worth my time. And when I got off the call, because everybody's been down that Facebook rabbit hole, including me, no one wins when you go down that hole, right? It's just, you don't. And
Yeah.
so when I got
Yeah.
off that call, I had to ask myself, though, okay, if this isn't worth your time, what is? And I had to make some decisions like, what is worth my time? Educating my kids, giving my kids the tools to discover for themselves, helping my kids understand what is fake news, what are reliable sources to get your information from. What's worth my time? Well, my job is about getting tools in the hands of kids so they can read. That's worth my time. talking about where schools can get funding. That's worth my time, right? And so I think there's varying continuums from staying silent to setting yourself on fire. I guess what I'm saying is there are degrees on that continuum, but what isn't acceptable is just sitting on your hands and doing nothing.
Agreed. And I think, yeah, you have to do what aligns with your comfort level, but it's okay to be a little uncomfortable. I called my senator today, by the way. I've never done that before.
Good for you.
I'm sad to say,
Good for
embarrassed
you.
to say. But and I was like, oh, this is weird. What am I going to do? What am I going to say? But I was just so pissed off. I'm like, I'm calling him and I don't care, if it makes a difference or not. It makes me feel like I can do a little something. Right.
Yep.
And so I just think we have to decide. You see those quotes and the memes about, when our grandkids ask us where we were and what we were doing when our rights were being disintegrated and the Constitution was being obliterated, like, where were we? And so I think we all just have to really take a look in the mirror and say, where do I want to tell my grandkids I was? What was I doing? Or what was I saying? And not to heap on guilt, because it's not about that at all. It's just about staying present and staying awake to what is really happening, and have the courage to look at, like, if you only get your news source from one place, have the courage to look at an alternative, because our algorithms only give us what our algorithms think we want.
Yeah,
and so
totally.
that's why we just get fed the stuff that reinforces what we believe, instead of,
Yep.
okay, well, let me kind of have a growth mindset and look at something else. What else might be true? Maybe two things are true at once, right? What's important for me is that we help our listeners and me and you figure out, okay, what are some things we can do moving forward to help us feel empowered, to help us feel not so stressed out, and so to help us, regulate our nervous system so we can handle, peeking out from behind our hand to look at what is going on. Because, to Martin's point, we don't want to have our head in the sand. I had my head in the sand for a long time. And we talked about this on the episode with Bree. And it wasn't until 2020, it just shook the shit out of me and it woke me up. And it's like, oh my gosh, wow. I'm a good person. I love everybody. It doesn't matter, what color you are. That's great. But I wasn't really looking at all the ways that my silence was dangerous for people of color. I wasn't outwardly doing harmful things, but my silence wasn't helping. And I can use my voice to help as a white person. So what can we do to regulate our nervous systems when they're blown out? Because, man, mine's been blown out.
Yep.
Because, by the way, then you add on your daily life. You add on taking your dad to the doctor, feeding your family, going to your day job, talking with clients, right? Mowing the lawn, whatever. And so we have to stay regulated. We have to figure out a way to care for ourselves during this. And I think, the first way, and we've kind of talked about this already, but you have to limit your threat exposure. You have to limit your consumption of all the things that we are not meant to see on such a relentless level.
Yeah. And I think to your point, in terms of like the news sources, people are always, I think, shocked when they hear this, but y'all, the stuff that you see on social media and in your feed, those aren't all human beings, okay? A lot of it is bots, and they are fake people. Like, I know I sound like I'm like Looney Tunes, but I promise you I'm not. There are bad actors out there that put all this information together, and it seems, even in just like a response to people or just something that pops up in your feed, and they are out there trying to influence things. So I'm not being paranoid when I tell you this. My point is that take it with a grain of salt, okay? Take it with a grain of salt, because you cannot always trust what you see in those channels, which is why it's so important to have belly-to-belly conversations with people and to really vet those sources.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, belly-to-belly. That's so cute. But it's true. Yes, in real life, safe people that, may agree, may not, but you need to have a place where this can all go. You need to get it out of your body. And yeah, having a human conversation about it definitely helps. Okay, quick pause. Have we talked about the Pod Squad lately?
Oh, the Pod Squad. You mean our email list /VIP lounge /digital wine club?
Exactly. So listeners, if you're not on it yet, you're basically making life harder for yourself when it comes to podcasts.
Like trying to scroll for show notes while speed walking on a treadmill. Wait, what was that link again? Oh, no. Grab the side rails.
Or pulling up that book we mentioned while you're in the Starbucks line and then realizing everybody else moved up 3 cars and now you're that woman.
We've all been there. That's why we made the Pod Squad. You'll get new episode alerts every week with direct links. Easy to listen, easy to share.
And show notes straight to your inbox. So when we drop a life-changing product, book, hot tip, or yummy new drink, you're not rummaging through your memory like a woman searching for her reading glasses when they're on top of her head.
It's organized, it's helpful, it's for you, babes.
So join the Pod Squad. The link is in the show notes. Just tap it.
Snacks, sarcasm, solidarity.
And obviously, fighting the patriarchy.
We write at dawn.
One of the things I try to do is not start and end my day with news or, the latest breaking or the latest headlines. And it's hard because, if you're on social media, you're going to get some of that. But that's one thing I try to do is just not start and end my day with the heaviness of the world.
So y'all know that we like to make sure that everybody has some meaningful steps, suggestions, resources, when we get to the ends of our episodes, and we call them takeaways, right? And so this is no different. And again, please understand, we are not experts. Karen has a counseling degree, but we are not like medical professionals. We are not licensed therapists or any of that. So the things that we are saying come from either our collective consciousness, the research we've done, or people that we've talked to. So take it with a grain of salt. I talked a little bit about belly-to-belly conversations. The other reason I think that's so important, and I'm not talking about just like go get lost in a crowd. That's not what I'm saying. When I say belly-to-belly conversations, I mean with your people, right? Someone outside your family or a friend that is a trusted person. Try to touch base in real life in the world for a couple of reasons. First of all, we got so used to being on a screen during the pandemic that we forgot how to connect with people in real life. And that is just a fact. And they're only beginning to research that, right? So it is so much easier to disagree with someone and be mad at them or not understand that point of view through a screen, through a social media account, all of that. People are much braver when they're shouting at a username than when they are face to face. So check yourself. You can talk to people that believe the same things you do. That's okay, right? But make sure that you're touching base with the real human. So you can talk in real life about people's real situations and try to push yourself. I know all of us have kind of become averse to just like hanging out with tons of people after the pandemic, but try to at least have these one-on-one conversations with people, because I really feel like we've lost the ability to do that, to talk to each other in a lot of ways. And I think that's a skill that we need to keep sharp.
I think something else that you can do is silence or delete altogether any kinds of accounts, social media accounts, newsletters you might get in your email inbox that increase your anxiety or anything that makes you feel, you can feel it in your body, right? Get rid of them. And that including quote unquote influencers or including accounts that you might follow and you just, feel kind of gross after you engage or you consume their content. Do a social media audit. Get rid of all that because let me tell you, we have enough things to make us feel like shit in the world. We don't need more.
We don't need someone's assistance doing that. And I will tell you, the other thing you can do, whether or not you have an Apple or an Android phone, and I show this, but I don't think it'll show up. So, when you get like your Google News feed or your Apple News feed or all those, you can curate that. So it's the same kind of thing as like scrubbing your social media. You can take out sources that you find to be biased or disturbing or whatever. I've done that in a lot of situations. So I've gone through, and when Google News shows me a particular article, that I've noticed is from this source that always has this really negative opinion, or I don't feel like they're checking their facts, I can remove that source from my news feed and replace it with one that's I feel like is more accurate, or even just like leave it out completely. And I've had to do that on a few things. So just like you're deliberate with your social media, be deliberate about how you're consuming things, right? To Karen's point, be brave. Every once in a while, turn on a channel of something that you don't necessarily follow just to kind of put your antenna out, but don't consume that crap on a regular basis because it's going to fry you.
No, definitely. And get outside, go touch dirt, go touch grass, get grounded. Yes. Put the phone down. Believe me, I feel that helpless, hopeless feeling a lot when I'm watching things that are happening in real time. And, you get kind of stuck in that, well, I'm just one person. I can't do anything. Right. Like we talked about earlier, we have so much power as women, as midlife women, and so as white women. So even if you just pick one thing, right? Pick one thing that you can do that feels good, right? Maybe it's a monthly donation to a nonprofit that you believe in their values. Maybe you're volunteering. Maybe it's a phone call, like I did. Call your senator, call your Congress people. It can even be how you're showing up in real life. I had a friend who I was talking to today, and she was saying that she was talking to somebody else, and that person was kind of applauding the tactics of ICE. And my friend had to say, hold up a second. And as hard as that was, because, we don't want to create, we're women. We don't want to make waves. We don't want to create conflict. We don't, but she's just like, I cannot let this go. And she had to have a dialogue, right? And so I think even if it's something like that, even if it's just having conversations with people in your life, like Lisa said, she's educating her kids, she's teaching her kids, she's showing her kids and letting them make informed decisions. So don't ever think that you can't do anything, because there's always something that you can do.
Yeah. And I think conversely, my husband always jokes with me. He's like, did you email mad? Right? Because we all have this resistance to be like, yeah, right? And you're typing out this response, going down that Facebook rabbit hole, sending that email, like just flying off the handle at somebody. And yes, there is a time for passion and power, but just take a deep breath. Don't email mad, right? Just pause, right? Just pause. Take a breath. And I'm preaching to myself. This is the mantra I'm telling myself, right? There's things like you can just put one hand on your chest, right? Take one slow breath in. Exhale longer than you inhale. Do some yoga breathing, right? Like ground yourself. Like I am in my kitchen. It's Tuesday. I'm safe, right? And what the science tells us is that interrupts that freeze response that you have, right? It brings blood flow back to that part of your brain that allows choice instead of reactivity. So as you are doing this, take care of yourself that way. Because to Karen's point, nobody was meant to be in this war zone constantly, right? Like, I can't even imagine what it's like to be living in like Ukraine right now, where they've been in this constant state of literal life or death for years now. So you think this is bad? Holy moly, right? But we are living in a variation of that. And it's essentially, it is constant stimuli that your brain has to either react in fight, flight, or freeze. And just that trifecta choice is exhausting on your nervous system. So try to do things that regulate that. Go to the yoga class, right? Like meditate, like, and again, I am preaching to myself. Journal.
I mean, I don't know. Honestly, this is the one time I'm going to say I don't know that journaling is the best tactic, because we need to get out of our brains. I feel like
that's fair.
We're in our brains so much. I mean, for sure, if journaling helps you to process your feelings and to put it on paper, absolutely, 100%. But I know you're shocked just to hear me say, I don't know that
what is going on.
But
it's Freaky Friday with the journal.
Alternate universe. But I think that freeze mode is so easy to get into. You don't hear about it a lot. You hear about fight or flight, but you don't hear about that freeze part. And I think especially as women, and I know I've been there so much lately, it's like you just get overwhelmed. You get this feeling of overwhelm. What can I do? Oh my gosh, this is terrible. And then you're like immobilized and you don't do anything. So I think just taking some kind of a step, like, Lisa said, take a yoga class, maybe just put on your favorite song and just dance around the kitchen, whatever. But I think it's just important to move that energy and get us out of the freeze mode.
This is where the science comes in, right? Like when I was talking about the human thing and get in real life with someone, like there's science behind this, right? Like we all regulate through connection. When you isolate, that magnifies this threat that's outside. When you share it with someone, that reduces it. So we're speaking to you now in terms of nervous system regulation in any kind of a stressful situation, but it can obviously apply to this one. And since we are all being stressed out by the same thing, it seems germane to be discussing it.
And also get support. Good gravy. Like if you need to talk to somebody like a professional, get support, because this moment in time, I mean, I don't know. I feel like we've had a lot of big moments in time the past 5 years.
Seriously.
But
Amen.
It's bigger than maybe what you are capable of coping with, right? So ask for help, get some support, say things out loud. This is a lot. I don't know if I can hold on to this anymore, because your nervous system is going to recover faster if you can get support. Just struggling silently is just going to prolong your freeze mode. So this feels kind of icky, but I'm not coming at it from a sales perspective, but I have an offer right now that I'm offering free conversations. My son turned 30 last week, so I thought it would be fun to get on the phone with 30 women who just wanted to have a conversation about whatever, how they want to change their life, if they need to talk about a divorce or something. But in this situation, I'm happy to get on a call with women who just need to fucking talk, who just need to say, this is a lot. Can I please just dump it? And then maybe we can figure out one little step you can do. So I'll put the link in the show notes, but they're free. There's 0 strings attached, 0. So if you just need a sister to get on the phone and commiserate with, or if you need a fire lit under your ass, I'm here for that too. But for the purpose of this episode, I'm here
She's
for
a very good
stress
listener.
relief.
As someone that is her friend, I will say she's a great listener. She supports you, but she also doesn't put up with your bullshit. So just know that she can be whatever you need her to be. She's very good at that.
Thanks, girl.
We made it. Good Lord. I was worried that my head would catch on fire and explode, but we made it.
I'm so glad your head didn't explode. Yes,
Yeah.
This was a good episode. I think it was timely. I think we needed to have it. And I know it's, we talked about some uncomfortable things, and, listeners, as always, we want to know, where you land with all of this. So get in our inbox, give us a 5-star review. Let us know what you liked about this episode or what you might need. If you need another episode like this, let us know what you need, because we're here for conversations with you and for you.
Yes, please join our email list, the Pod Squad. It's super easy. So you can do one of two things, right? So on the show notes, like whatever you're listening to on your phone where it talks about the episode, it's the first link there. You just click that and it takes you where you join the Pod Squad. The other thing you can do is go to our website, drinkswiththegirlspodcast.com. That's where you can find anything. If you want to get in touch with us, if you want to, and we hope you do, join the email list. All that's there. I even try to link episodes in there, the latest episodes, although I'm a little behind. So drinkswiththegirlspodcast.com. Anything related to the show is there. You can just go for it and find whatever you need.
Perfect. So thank you, listeners. We loved having you along for this journey. And I will say cheers.
Cheers.